Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to continue on now, and I'm going to go into another prophecy here. Let me just set this up for you. This prophecy has to do with the rebuilding of the Jewish temple. Let me make sure that I got this all set up for you the right way here. And before I get to the Jewish temple prophecy, I just want to say that I did post some right below the first video that I did. There's going to be another video that's news connecting to the possible effects of Common Ellen that's supposed to be here during the Feast of Trumpets. The reason why I'm posting this video is because there was somebody next to an Air Force base who's been talking apparently to people who are in the military there, saying that the leaves have been restricted during the days that this comet is supposed to be there. So I thought that I would play that for you. And is it a coincidence? At this point I really can't tell, but there are people who are close to the facility, and I'm just reporting or what they're saying, so we're really at the mercy of what we're being told. But there's a lot of news out there which we're trying to disseminate, because there's a lot of false news and there's a lot of good news out there. But I just wanted to post this. You'll be able to listen to it. Just scroll down and you'll be able to listen to what he says. But what I really want to get into is what we know for sure, the hardcore evidence that when you go in and you read Daniel chapter 9 verse 27, and when you go into Matthew 24:15, and you'll see some other verses that I put up at my site at www.bibleprophecyman.com. These are prophecies about this third temple that was going to be built in the last days. And this is when this temple is built, you know that you're already in the tribulation. So we know by all of the signs that are taking place now that we're very, very close. We're actually on the cusp of seeing the beginning of the third temple being rebuilt. Now, I don't believe that that temple will be rebuilt until the Psalm 83 war is over. And I believe that that war we're at the pinnacle of that war taking place. But just by the mere fact that the Jewish people are now having conferences about building the temple, and all the information that I have in my book gives you all the documentation and shows you what they're doing, there is no doubt in my mind that those words of Jesus Christ are about to be fulfilled. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to actually play, and I'll stop it when he's talking, and so I can connect the dots with you. This is coming from the special conference in Jerusalem on the rebuilding of the third temple that Jesus told us to watch for in the last days. So let me go ahead and play this.
We're here today in Jerusalem as part of the Temple Conference to hear different lectures on different matters connected to the Temple Mount and to the rebuilding of the Temple. We're dealing with matters of the press, matters of government, matters related to the ascent to Har Bayit, to the Temple Mount by women. And later on we have our general meeting inside the Great Synagogue. And there we'll hear more lectures and hear some music related to the temple, and then have the temple meal, what we call the Sudat HaMikdash. This is all in order to raise the awareness to the Temple Mount, and the importance of it to the Jewish people. It's no accident that it falls out this week when the Arab world wants to create a new Arab country inside the land of Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, that we have chosen to hold our temple conference, because it's obvious that the vacuum caused by there being no temple and a lack of Jewish presence on the Temple Mount, that the Arabs called for the creation of a new state.
At this very week, in the month of September, around the world, there are conferences and there are people who are making every effort to prove to the world that Israel has no right to exist, and the Palestinians are trying to push us away from here. We believe that this is happening because the people of Israel are not recognizing the fact that though we in our own eyes have seen the words of the prophets come out of the book, materialize and become reality in front of our life, at the greatest of miracles in the history of mankind, establishment of the state of Israel, but we're in the middle of the process.
Now, did you hear what he said? We're in the middle of the process. He said that the whole world is having conferences, that Israel doesn't exist, that shouldn't exist. Zechariah 12:3 told us that this very thing was going to happen just before we know that the tribulation begins. So what this Jewish man in Israel is talking about at this conference is actual like footage that Zechariah saw many years ago, and we're now actually living the footage that he saw about the future. And so it is not a coincidence that all the Arabs and most of the world nations now are coming against Israel. We're going to see that at the UN vote, where they think 193 nations will vote for a state, or I believe 163 nations, which are a lot of nations, and some of those nations will abstain. But we're seeing these very things taking place, and he even says this is the process. All right, let me back this up. This is really important. Listen to what he says.
But we're in the middle of the process.
We're in the middle of the process. In other words, we're at the point where they're talking about building a temple. When you read my book, you'll see that they've already gotten all of the items in the that used to be in the second temple for the beginning of the worshiping surfaces, or the surfaces or the sacrifices that they're going to be doing during the tribulation, that Jesus told us when the man of sin goes into the temple, he will stop those sacrifices. And that is about to take place when Israel builds this temple. So let's go on and listen to what he says.
And the destination, where we are going, is where from the Temple Mount, the place chosen by God himself, will come out a message. God is one and his name is one. This will happen when the people of Israel recognize the fact that Jewish presence on the Temple Mount is a natural part of the view. And this is what we are calling here, to gather the people who are involved in promoting the conscience of temple, the conscience of God's will for us to rebuild the temple. We are here trying to gather our energy and work together towards this goal.
Now, please understand this. What this gentleman just said is a carbon copy of what Jesus told us they were going to do. Now you have a choice. You hear what they're saying, but do you believe what they're saying? You heard what Jesus said, but do you believe it? Because there's only two roads, either truth or lies. And Jesus told us over 2,000 years ago they would be doing what they're doing today. And this conference is living proof that Jesus Christ's words are in fact coming to pass. And I'm praying that as I connect the dots for you, the Holy Spirit will be speaking to you and unravel the blinders that are on your eyes, that you can see the loving compassion Jesus Christ, the God who spent time on the cross and bled out for us, that you need to receive his blood and repent, so that you can be saved by Jesus Christ from what's about to take place in a very near future. Because when this temple is built, that tells you that the Antichrist is here, and we're on the cusp of seeing those events taking place. So let's finish.
Is walk around the country and actually explain to people what's really the temple. What is this thing they're actually talking about all day, praying about, mentioning? It's not something we're going to pray for another 2,000 years, but actually something that we could actually do today. It's actually that could be in 2 hours, in 2 minutes, in 20 days. Actually, there will be a temple on Temple Mount.
So the girl at this conference said there will be a temple on the Temple Mount. And that is a fact. Count on it. Now, I know that there's a lot of skeptics out there, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen before it takes place, because the word of the Lord tells us what's going to take place. Say, you don't believe anything that I've just shown you, and I pray that you would, but those who don't, just watch the future and watch the news, because when you hear that they're going to rebuild the temple, you better know that you have missed the opportunity of your lifetime to be secured in Jesus Christ. And when you hear that, you better hope to God that the church is still here. Now we know that the confirmation, this confirming of this peace agreement, which eludes them and has eluded the Palestinians and the Israelis for a couple decades now, there is going to be a covenant that will be signed. It tells us in Daniel 9:27. And so when that is here, when you hear the confirmation of the confirming, the Antichrist is going to tell them, go ahead and build your temple. And I believe that that will happen as soon as the Psalm 83 war is over and the rest of the world goes into chaos because the world economy breaks down. All of these things are in the process of taking place right now. So it is extremely important. Now I want to get into a few other prophecies. When you scroll down, you're going to see in Luke 21:25, the Lord told us, watch for the roaring of the seas and the waves. And here is another article today, typhoon nears Japan, 1.3 million people told to evacuate. Japan has been under so many disasters since March 11th of 2011. And one of the reasons why they've seen so many disasters is because they went out and they broadcast that they were going to sponsor or support the Palestinians who were going to divide the land of Israel. And God told us that anybody who did this, I will cut you into pieces. Again, Zechariah 12:3. And so now you have more than 1 million people were advised to evacuate on Tuesday as Typhoon Roke approached Japan, threatening industrial city. It goes on and on and on. They had the earthquake, massive earthquake. They've had the meltdown, the tsunami, and now they got these massive storms coming through. What part of prophecy don't you get? What part of the prophecies don't you see yet? Now here is another one. Jesus told us in Matthew 24:7 and also in Luke 21:11, where 21:11 he says, watch the great earthquakes. In Matthew 24:7 he says, watch for many earthquakes. Let me ask you a question before I give you this information. Jesus told us over and over and over again in the New Testament, keep on the watch. Watch, I say watch, over and over. Why did he give us all of these signs? Why did he give them to us? Because he gave them to us because if you watched, if you actually did what the Lord told you to do and you watched the news, you would see every word that Jesus told about taking place in the news, and that's exactly what we're seeing today. Anybody who tells you that you don't need to be on a watch or you don't need to have to watch the news in relation to Bible prophecy, they are telling you something different than what Jesus Christ tells us in his word. And if you want to take the challenge, just read Matthew 24:7, Luke 21, chapter 21, and Mark chapter 13, and you'll see how many times he says watch. Now here is a chart. I'm going to put this up here. I put this at my website, by the way. You probably won't be able to see it too well here, but this is the statistics on the earthquakes so far in 2011, and it compares to the previous years. And so just let me show you. Right now, from 5.0 to 5.9, which is a pretty good size earthquakes, there's 1,861, and the year's not even over yet. Now last year there was 963, but the year before there was almost 1,896. The year before that we saw 1,768. The year before that, I mean, all the way to 2002, 1,344. So, and the year's not even over yet. We're already at 1,861. As far as the big quakes, 6.0 to 6.9, which are really big. This year, so far, and the year's not over yet, there's 158 of those earthquakes. Last year there was 151. The year before that, 144. The year before that, 168. In 2006, 142. 2005, 140, 2003, 141, and we're at 158, and we're still not even out of the year yet. And already in 2011, for the big earthquakes, 7.0 to 7.9,